Hey guys, how's it going? I have another video today for you guys because I guess there's just a lot that's happened and you might be wondering why I'm next to a sunflower. Well, firstly, it's just beautiful, but that's not the only reason that it's in the video today. But while I'm here talking about the beauty of the sunflower, I got this beautiful bouquet of flowers for my birthday from some beautiful women at my church. And so it's about 2 weeks old, but still looking beautiful. How lovely is that? Now, why the sunflower, as you might see by the title as well? So I have a friend who came to my birthday party, which was a paint party, and a paint and praise party specifically. Now, paint and praise party. For those of you who haven't heard that term ever before, it's basically like a paint and sip party, which is really a popular thing right now, I guess. Well, instead of sipping champagne or wine like most people would in a paint and sip party, we paint and praise. And basically it's just, we had praise music on, Christian music on in the background. And the idea was to paint something that inspires your faith. So without going into detail about that, my friend, who this is really about, hasn't painted before, but she chose to paint a sunflower and put a scripture with it. And so later after that, and I might be forgetting some of the details here, but I will get the main points of the story right. So she told me afterwards that more things about the sunflower has come up for her, and that it's just interesting how it's come up. I think she said, as far as I remember, she wanted to plant a flower from seed, which she hasn't done before, and she thought about doing that with a sunflower. And there was another thing about the sunflower that came up. Anyway, and then also I got a single sunflower in a bouquet of flowers, which is beautiful, but I don't think I've ever had a sunflower in a bouquet of flowers before. So it's just it was interesting timing. And on top of that, when I was at work the other day, and this is all within the space of like a week and a half maximum, there was a lady that walked past the window of my workplace, and she had a tray of coffees in her hand that she was taking somewhere, and on top of that tray was a sunflower head. And I mean, who does that? Where do you ever see that? Just a sunflower head on top of a tray of coffees. My friend also said it came up on her Instagram. Who knows if it's because we were talking about it? Maybe, but maybe not. I think it was a shirt with a sunflower on it. I think there was something else too. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but it kept coming up, and it felt like there was definitely a message, like God was bringing it to her attention, to our attention. And so we said, there must be a meaning to this. And I've prayed about it, and I thought the best thing to do would be to look up what... not to type in the spiritual meaning of a sunflower, because I don't want like the new age meaning of a flower or that kind of thing. I want the biblical meaning. And so as I thought about it, well, I typed it in, and of course the first thing you think about, if you know anything about a sunflower, is the fact that its face follows the sun. And immediately that brought something to mind. Its face follows the sun. What does the sun represent? The sun, the light, the source of giving life to plants, life to us. We all need the sun. Jesus, God. And the sunflower face follows it all through the day. And when I looked it up, I didn't know there was another detail to it, that actually that is just when the sunflower is small. When it's growing to maturity, That's when it is following the sun every day. And you know, at nighttime, it stays... At nighttime, actually, it turns again to face the east, so that as soon as the sun rises, its face is toward the east, so it can get the maximum amount of sunlight through the day, and then it follows it again. When it is a mature sunflower, it becomes filled with sunflower seeds, and so it becomes heavy, and it just stays in the one place. But where does it stay? It faces east for the rest of its life, and the sun rises in the east. Another interesting thing I thought was, you know, the Bible mentions a lot about the direction of east. Now, when I looked it up too, when I just looked up pictures of sunflowers and information, the thing that always comes up are sunflowers in a field, and you just see this massive field of sunflowers. And that image made me think of the last days. It just gave me this sort of revelation feeling, just seeing all these sunflowers in a field, thinking about the harvest, and they're just all facing the same direction. I just think that's amazing. And, you know, I think that represents Christians. And I think it is talking about the last days, or right now, and facing Jesus, looking for the return. Look, that verse that says, look up for your redemption is near. I think that is the feeling that I'm getting about this sunflower. Now, the other thing too, I kept looking it up, and now I'm going to get my notes out, because there are a few things that I actually didn't know. There was this article that came up, and it was like a scientific article. It's a long one, but basically, let me just get to it. The title of it says, "One plant has the ability to help us understand climate change." And I'm not going to talk about climate change now, but that's the heading of this article. Now, the reason it says it can help us understand climate change... Okay, let me just read you this top part. This is a scientific article. The humble sunflower appears not quite of this earth. That's the first sentence. Its yellow crowned head sits atop its stalk like a green broomstick. Its seeds, arranged in a logarithmic spiral, are produced by tiny flowers called disc florets that emerge from the center of its head and radiate outward. But aside from being a biological marvel, the sunflower is also often in the scientific spotlight. From understanding how new plant species emerge to studying solar tracking, which is how the flowers align themselves with the sun's position in the sky, sunflowers are a darling in the field of science. However, researchers can only get so far in understanding a plant without detailed genetic knowledge. And after close to a decade, it has finally unfurled itself. And then it continues to talk about what they found. But I'm just going to give you a highlight. Let me find it. Here. Part of what makes the sunflower useful for studying climate change is the plant's natural resilience. Already well equipped to withstand drought, high salinity, vastly variable ecosystems, and requiring little fertilizer, the sunflower is one of nature's finest apocalypse preppers. For me, that just kind of confirmed the feeling I got about the Revelation vibe that I got. Yeah. So but I want to make sure you caught that it is resilient. It is a very resilient flower. It says more in that article about why it's so resilient, but what does it say? It says it can make a home out of anything such as salt marshes, sand dunes, and the dry desert floor. I've done work in the middle of the desert in these sand dunes, and there are no plants around other than the sunflowers just hanging on. And so the more you read that, right, the more you're thinking about Christians And I think of Jesus' words that says, "He who will endure until the end, the same shall be saved." Because he knows there's trials and tribulations that we go through as Christians, particularly in the last days. Now, whether you believe we as Christians are going to go through the tribulation or not, I think the thing is, in my personal opinion, you have to be prepared to go through the great tribulation. Whether you believe or hope that the rapture is before that or not, we have to be prepared, as we should be prepared to go through trials and tribulations daily. We should be prepared to go through the great tribulation daily. Not daily, if it happens, I mean. Now, I'm not saying prepared like you have to start prepping. If you want to prep like doomsday prep, go for it. But this is more about spiritual prepping. This is about spiritual resilience, mental, emotional, spiritual resilience. He who endures to the end, the same shall be saved. And who do we need to look to daily to get through trials and tribulations, fears and doubt? The sunflower follows the sun. It's not like it follows the sun every second day or every third day or even once a week. Every day, its face is toward the sun. It makes me think of that song, "Turn Your Eyes Upon Jesus, and the things of earth will grow strangely dim in the light of his glory and grace." That song is those lyrics are so true. The more you focus on Jesus, the more the things of this world will grow dim. And it's like, if you think about Peter, who wanted to walk on the water with Jesus. He asked Jesus, "If it's you, Master, then call me out and I can walk on the water." And Jesus called him out. Peter stepped out of the boat onto the water in the midst of this storm in the ocean. And he stepped on the water. He was the only person recorded that, apart from Jesus, that walked on water. But when he started to look around him, when he started to look to his left and to his right, and the fear crept in about what was going on around him, he started to sink. But Jesus pulled him back up. And it comes down to faith. It always comes down to faith. Jesus repeats over and over to his disciples in the New Testament and to us, all he requires is that we have faith. If we have faith like a mustard seed, he says we can move mountains. But whenever people feared or failed to do something, he was disappointed in their faith. He said, basically, "You of little faith. This is why this or this can't happen." When people had little faith, he didn't move in miracles as he did in other towns. The towns where people didn't believe, it said he couldn't do miracles, many miracles there. And it's not because he wasn't able to. It's not like now his hands were tied and he couldn't. But for Jesus to do miracles, he always wanted people to have faith first. And so the faith can also be seen in the sunflower from how it turns to the east during the night, expecting the sun to rise again. Every night, it turns its face toward the east, expecting that the sun will rise again. The sunflower is expecting the sun to be faithful. And the sunflower is faithful by facing the east every day. So when it's mature, think about it. It's mature because it is heavy with seeds. Now, I haven't spent much time thinking about this part, but if you think about seeds in general, the sunflower is, they said, such a useful flower. Its seeds, firstly, can be used to eat as food, as nourishment. It can be made into oil if you press it, and if you want to, there's a lot of, I guess, prophetic meaning behind the pressing to produce oil as well. And this oil is used for many things. Apart from that, some sunflowers have roots that can be eaten. I'm not sure about all of them. I didn't look that up particularly, but I did see that somewhere. But also the actual petals itself can be used to make yellow dyes. So it's a useful flower. It's a useful flower. Now, we as Christians need to be useful as well. Jesus said, if we don't produce fruit, if we are trees or branches that don't produce fruit, we will be cut off and thrown asunder. We will be burnt like chaff because we don't produce fruit. So Jesus expects us to produce fruit. And when he comes back, he's going to say, good and faithful servant, to those servants who were good and faithful, who were doing the works that he expected us to do while he was gone. Like the parable of the master with the talents, He gave talents to everybody, and he was really upset at the guy that didn't multiply or use his talents. So I think that has part of the message there. Read Ephesians 5. Why did I say that? Ephesians 5. Be ye therefore followers of God as dear children, and walk in love as Christ loved us, and hath given himself for us an offering and a sacrifice to God for a sweet-smelling savour. All right. And then it says how it's saying all the bad fruits, basically, and all of those bad things, which means people who do that aren't going to inherit the kingdom of God. Go read Ephesians 5 for more details. And it's telling Christians, don't be partakers with them. For we were sometimes darkness, but now are we light in the Lord. So now we have to walk as children of the light. For the fruit of the Spirit is in all goodness and righteousness and truth, proving what is acceptable unto the Lord. Have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather reprove them. For it is a shame to even speak of those things which are done of them in secret. But all things that are reproved are made manifest by the light, for whatsoever doth make manifest is light. Wherefore he saith, awake thou that sleepest, and arise from the dead, and Christ shall give thee light. We need to be followers of God, walking in the light, as sunflowers are in the light, walking in the light, following the light, which means we aren't, there are so many Christians today that are still worldly Christians, that are still so with their heart in the world and who want to follow after the lusts of the world, whether it's watching movies that you're not supposed to watch that kind of dampen your spirit and influence you in ways that you might not even know. You have to protect your mind, like renew your mind as a Christian. Whether it's the way that you talk, the jokes that you laugh at or tell, if it's your attitude, we are the children of light now. We are no longer living according to the ways of the world. So don't be partakers with the people, the children of disobedience is how it's worded. Don't have fellowship with them. Jesus had fellowship with sinners in order to bring the light to them, in order to convert them, heal them, save them. He didn't just hang out with sinners and do what they do, or just, if you want to say, okay, well, I've got friends who are unbelievers, I'm not just going to cut them off. Well, are you sharing the truth with them at least? Or are you staying silent and still going out to pubs and clubs with them and just staying their friend and accepting your differences and staying silent about your faith? Because at the end of the day, someone is going to influence someone in that friendship. At the end of the day, even the Bible says bad company corrupts good morals, and that's just the way it is. Eventually It's going to creep in. Someone's going to influence someone, and I hope that you are going to positively influence them if you remain in close proximity, and not the other way around. I said regarding whatever situation you're in, or especially the last days that we're living in, when darkness comes and when you're afraid, just turn to the light and don't take your eyes off of him. Now, the thing with the East as well, I just want to note, also related to the return of Jesus, Matthew 24:27 says, "For as the lightning cometh out of the east, and shineth even unto the west, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be." And Matthew 24:27, let me just go there. Matthew 24 is the famous chapter where Jesus talks about the signs of the end times, what it's going to look like when he returns or before he returns. He's telling them the signs. So go to Matthew 24 and read through the signs again. And it's exactly in that verse. It's Matthew 24:13. It says, "But he that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved." So Matthew 24:21 says, "For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. For except those days should be shortened, there should no flesh be saved, but for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened." Now, this is why I'm not so sure that the church is going to be raptured before the tribulation, which I'm not going to go into detail about, but it says right there, for the elect are the children of God. For their sake, those days are going to be shortened, the days of the great tribulation. And it's saying, if any man says to you, "Here is Christ," or "There," don't believe it. "For there will arise false Christs, false prophets, showing great signs and wonders, insomuch that if it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect." So it's possible for the very elect to be deceived if they don't keep their eyes on the true God, on Jesus Christ, the true light. If you don't keep your eyes on him, you might be deceived. "Behold, I have told you before." This is Jesus talking. "Wherefore, if they say to you, Behold, he is in the desert, go not forth. Behold, he is in the secret chambers, believe it not. For as the lightning cometh out of the east and shineth even unto the west, so shall the coming of the Son of Man be." Anyway, and so it goes on. It's a much longer chapter. Actually, Matthew 24, funny, just quickly, this is the verses I was talking about before. It's talking about be ready for his coming. "Watch therefore." This is Matthew 24, verse 42. "Watch therefore, for you know not what hour your Lord doth come." And then it's talking about the story that read the parable. It's a man. Let me just quickly read it. "Who then is a faithful and wise servant, whom his Lord hath made ruler over his household, to give them meat in due season?" So this Lord made this guy the ruler of the servants, and that he is supposed to feed the servants when it's time to eat. So blessed is that servant who, when he comes, shall find so doing. So good job to that servant if, when the master comes back, he finds him doing the right thing. "For verily I say unto you that he shall make him ruler over all his goods. And if that evil servant shall say in his heart, My Lord delayeth his coming, and shall begin to smite his fellow servants, and eat and drink with the drunken, then the Lord of that servant shall come in a day when he looketh not for him, and in an hour that he is not aware of, and shall cut him asunder, and appoint him his portion with the hypocrites. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth." So if that master comes back to his house and sees that the servant is not doing the right thing, but is actually clearly wicked, because as soon as the master turns his back, he's doing the wrong thing, and he's only doing the right thing when he thinks the master is looking at him, the master comes back and catches him in the act of doing the wrong thing, then that servant is going to be cut asunder, and he will be appointed his portion with the hypocrites, where there is weeping and gnashing of teeth. And that refers to hell. So why, and what was the key there? The key is that that evil servant, it calls him an evil servant, said in his heart that his Lord is delaying his coming. So that is talking about us as Christians who, even you might think, oh yeah, we're living in the last days, but Jesus is taking a bit long to come back, and maybe in your heart you don't really believe he's coming back soon anymore. Maybe in your heart you think you have time and that you might just mess around a little bit and then you'll repent later. Or maybe in your heart, like I said before, you are still a worldly Christian, which it's really hard in this day and age to get out of the world with social media and seriously movies, the internet, and the consumerist society that we live in. It's so distracting and it's so tempting. It pulls you, constantly wants to pull you back into the world. And so if you get sucked into that and you forget that Jesus is coming back, you forget to follow the sun, to look at the sun, to look at the east for Jesus' return, he will come in an hour that you don't expect it, if you're not watching. Jesus talks in other places about the people who are watching will be ready, but those who aren't watching won't be ready. So I guess for me, prophetically, this message about the sunflower is a message of faith. It's to encourage our faith. It's to remind us to not be afraid. It's to remind us it's here to remind us to keep our eyes focused on Jesus, not to worry about what's happening to your left or to your right. The world right now, and when I say the world, I mean the evil forces of this world, is trying to pump so much fear into the people. Because fear is what makes you break. It makes you submissive to whatever evil scheme they want to do. It makes you lose hope. It just makes you... Fear is the worst thing. Fear is the opposite of faith. And there is so much fear being pumped into the world right now. So regardless of what's happening, don't look at the storm around you, but keep your eyes focused on Jesus. Do what he has put on your heart to do for his kingdom. Just don't grow weary in well-doing. Labor for his kingdom. And keep your eyes focused toward the east for his return, because his return is coming. He's coming very soon. It's like they're saying, he's on his way, I tell you. Jesus isn't coming soon. He's on his way. He's on his way. Won't be long now. Just hang in there. And don't think that Jesus is taking too long. Don't get discouraged. He who endures until the end, the same shall be saved. So anyway, guys, I pray that message blessed someone, and I thank God for speaking to us in such beautiful and mysterious ways. And I pray you guys be blessed, and I'll see you soon. Take care.